I am Chris Phillips. He is Blake Ruffino, joining the show once again, friend of the show, AYS Sports, Ruffino and Joe show, now of the 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports Network. First things first, Blake, congrats on the success, my friend. And I will say, I was about to tell you this off air. It is weird having you on this time of year, not talking about baseball. I don't mean to rub salt in the wound here, but I appreciate you taking the time either way to come on the show, man. Congrats, seriously, on the success for you, for Joe DeLeon. Y'all do a great job, well-deserved, and excited, man. This is the first time I've had you on since then. This is awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It has been like drinking through a fire hose. You know, I didn't realize that this many head coaches in the P4 were on Twitter. I'll leave it at that. I didn't know that Big Ten head coaches listen to the show. So it's been nice. It's been fun. You know, now that LSU baseball is out of it, as you do pull salt in the wound. It's like the John Summerall thing of yesterday. It's not really a shot, but it really is a shot. So you're now kind of technically taking a shot at me in LSU baseball.
You guys are like the what is it? The meme of Squidward looking out of the window and seeing like Patrick and SpongeBob playing outside. That's LSU baseball fans.
With 8 national titles sitting behind us.
Hey, LSU fans are just going to watch literally like this weekend. They're going to watch the regional highlights from last year and then super regional weekend. They'll just watch the replays of the games in the College World Series. Like, no, I'm just rewatching 2025. I'm not even watching this year.
Can I tell you something that has been a little bit awesome for me, though? Not having an invested interest and just being able to enjoy the games has been phenomenal. Well, first off, the SEC tournament game, and that was a blowout. But, you know, watching Florida battle, I don't have an invested interest.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude gets hit off the arm. What's Sully going to do? I'm sure deep down Sully's all like, yes, I'm glad he's not hurt, but now I get to put adversity into him. He kind of smirked with that old red skin he's got, and he just smirked. I'm like, I don't know if he's mad that his pitcher got hurt or he's glad that they got to face adversity. It has been good to just watch baseball. I think that has been very fun. However, then I get in there and I'm already talking about the portal, and it's May 27th. By the way, I didn't talk about the portal last year for LSU baseball until June, until you and I were in Omaha.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit different. Moves already being made. So it sucks, but at the same time, you know, it has been from an individual person standpoint, Chris, it's been really nice to do that. And then obviously with our transition to CBS and 24/7, I get to dive into what, you know, we're going to talk about today, and that's football.
Yeah, I was going to say it allows you certainly to redirect all of the attention to what we're going to focus on today. First question I have for you, Blake, and there is a very specific reason I brought you on today. It's to talk about your favorite person in sports right now. But do you remember SEC spring meetings? Have I been living under a rock, or has it always been like this dramatic? I don't feel like in years past, I feel like SEC spring meetings has been like more of a footnote where it's like, okay, I kind of see it on SEC Network and I see, oh, they're at the beach again. Oh, but like, it feels like it's SEC Media Days light, which I don't ever really feel like it's ever been like that.
No, the only time I remember in 21 when Saban and Jimbo got into it, right? Like, you know, which is a whole different scenario. By the way, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher got reprimanded, and Greg Sankey actually did go to the podium and said that he was going to reprimand him. And to be a little honest with you, I was kind of like, damn, he reprimanded Nick Saban. I was like, damn, Chris, it's Saban.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about it now? Why didn't you investigate Texas A&M for illegally tampering and illegally recruiting? So you'll reprimand a coach for saying the truth. You'll make him pay $50,000 for the truth, but yet you won't investigate a team that's cheating. Huh.
And that is a great segue, Blake, into
it's
really the reason.
Do this, Chris.
Listen, I brought you. I want to talk about Greg Sankey. I'm not asking you to come on here and body him necessarily, but there are a lot of issues that are taking place right now at SEC spring meetings, which again I think is most notably why it's most notably taken center stage, contrary to previous years, because it feels like we are at a very pivotal year in the history of the sport with playoff expansion, with what's going on with the portal and NIL and the SEC championship game, potentially a coach being reprimanded. My friend, where would you like to start on Greg Sankey? Because there's been for years this I feel like Greg Sankey has caught a lot of praise over the years. He's the leader of the biggest and best conference, in America or what have you in college athletics. But I feel like over the past couple of years, his stock has started to decline a little bit. And as we've run into, and you brought this up to me this isn't a new thing, as we've started to run into some adversity in regards to now the Big Ten is winning, the top of the Big Ten's winning titles, and the Big Ten, other conferences want certain things, and they want the SEC to do certain things. And now we're seeing the SEC bend the knee. 9-game conference schedule. Cupcake Saturdays are gone. That's another example of this. Your thoughts, and you can take this whatever direction you want, because I know I just threw a ton of topics at you, and certainly we'll get in the Lane Kiffin reprimand thing. But where do you sit with Greg Sankey right now?
I think he's on the borderline of people questioning if he is doing the best job for the SEC. So I tweeted this out today on the Ruffino and Joe account so that it would reach more of a national audience, which I sent to you because I knew I was coming on. So just so we understand, let's start with the playoff. So you went to a 9-game SEC schedule, which I don't necessarily hate from a you get more competitive game standpoint. The problem that I've had is 13 of the top 15 strengths of schedule at the end of the regular season last year were held by the SEC. 16 of the teams were in the top 25. Ask me how many teams in the Big Ten were in there. It's not a lot. So the problem that I had is you're already losing and now you're making it tougher. So what was the reason of doing it? Okay, well, you wanted to expand to 16 teams. So what would have a 16-team expansion have done a year ago? It would have gotten Texas in there, which, by the way, that's a whole sidebar of just the overall problem. I don't believe teams are what their record says that they are. I think Texas should have been in over Oklahoma. Well, Blake, what makes you believe that? They beat them on the field. The reason you're looking at a 10-2 team versus a 9-3 team, everybody's like, well, they got another win. Oh, they have one more win than them. They also didn't play Ohio State either. So those are differences, but I understood and swallowed the idea of the 9-game conference schedule if it meant that the SEC would get more teams in like Vanderbilt and Texas. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. So let's roll through what happened. The Big Ten comes to the SEC and says, hey, we will do a 16-team playoff if you go to 9 conference games. This happened at Big Ten Media Days last year. Sounds good. We're going to 9 conference games. SEC goes back to the Big Ten. Hey, y'all ready? And Tony Petitti goes, no, you idiot. Why would we do that? He got played. Mm-hmm. He got significantly played. So now you're in an instance where, okay, you had a TV dude, a guy that worked for Major League Baseball, who doesn't have any idea of how to really legislate a conference, just body bagged you. He body bagged you in front of millions, and everybody in the SEC and that covers teams in the SEC swept it under a rug because they're like, oh, well, they couldn't come to agreement. No, they had an agreement. Tony Petitti backed out of it, and now you got body bagged. So I am not an expansionist by any means. So why am I not an expansionist? Well, the team that just spent the most money 2 years ago in Ohio State won a national title. Newsflash, the number 1 overall seed in Indiana won a national title.
Yeah. We're not getting more. We're not getting more competitive games.
No,
I think you'd have to be a fool to argue that the motive for wanting to go to even 16, but certainly the 24 team deal. The motive is not, we need a better system in place to help find the national champion. That is not even remotely the purpose of that.
No, the 12-team system is broken. It's broken. Okay. Tennessee got skull drug. James Madison got skull drug. Tulane got skull drug.
I mean, you got a guy in John Summerall who was at one of those G5s last year saying out loud, you know, I don't know that 2 G5s should be in. And his team got skull drug, but he's saying that out loud now that he's at Florida.
Right. And by the way, I listened to y'all's show yesterday. There's 1,000 times out of 1,000 he's going to Florida. Now, John does not want Blake Ruffino coming out here and saying where an Ole Miss and Florida plane landed literally 72 hours before he went to Florida. You want to do that? You want to take shot? Look, Chris, I'm the one that comes out there and will let stuff fly because I'm just going to call it like it is. Where were planes landing 72 hours before you took the job? I know. You know how I know? I was there when they landed. With that part being said, you look at how many teams are getting absolutely abused. We have a committee led by Hunter Yurachek, by the way, at the end of this, dummy, who literally justified Texas Tech being a 4th overall seed. You've had Texas Tech, Boise State, and Arizona State get buys, and they've lost. Texas Tech didn't score a point. So you know what the best thing to do is? Let's expand it. So I eventually think it's going to happen. But here's the problem I have with that. The problem I have with it is I know that you cover the SEC. Fantastic job in doing it. You know that. But the Big Ten title game was really freaking competitive. 13-10, a defensive slugfest. They're running the ball. It was an amazing football game. Why in the world would I rather take that away when last year's playoff scenario would have been in the first round, Notre Dame versus Houston? Please tell me. If Texas Tech wasn't a 4 seed, they got scolded by a deflated and injured Oregon team who, by the way, had 2 coordinators that took head coaching jobs, one in the SEC that literally wasn't there and you couldn't score a point. And you're trying to convince me that it's about access. No, let's call it what it is. And Mike Elko did the brilliant thing yesterday, which you know I'm not a Texas A&M guy, so I have no business of rolling out there. Mike Elko is the only dude that's going to stand on business. Of course I want 40. But it's not what's best for the sport. Greg Sankey getting played, which he got played.
I thought he got played too with the cupcake weekend thing. I mean, he made a joke out of it, but like he got played there too.
He got played. He's getting played. And you know where else he got played? We were told that if they also went to 9 conference games, that the College Football Playoff Committee would vastly weigh strength of schedule.
Yep.
Then how is Texas Tech at 4? How is Hunter Yurachek a lead part of the committee, and does he just not remember that? Like, Chris, we have ADs that are sitting in there. Do you think that they're able to watch all of the games? I can't watch all the games, and it's my job to. Like, there's Mondays and Sundays that I'm having to go back and watch games, most of them that didn't really matter, but we have to keep our eyes on. So I just think that it has been a culmination of a lot of things for me, that was the cherry on top. You know, like, I know that you don't like the ABS system, and I'm going to rub you the wrong way on this one. Okay, but 60+% overturns by college kids. If you take the pitchers and you take the hitters that didn't challenge away from it and you just go to catchers, how are we at 80%? How is that plausible? And you're trying to sit here and tell me that we don't have a problem with officiating. I've come down on him with scheduling. By the way, Texas is still yet to go to Baton Rouge. Okay? And then now the biggest thing of all with the college football playoff, Tell me something, Chris, that he's done. But here's what takes the cake for me before I kick it back over to you. This is what drives me nuts. Literally yesterday, you came out there and said that you have been having conversations about breaking away from the College Sports Commission and governing your own body. Do what? You have bitched, moaned, and complained for the last 4 years that you have needed Congress to intervene. Every single day, whether it is at SEC Media Days, spring meetings, whether you're with Ross Dellinger in an article, and yet you could have done it yourself from the very beginning. So please tell me how and what he's done that's helped the SEC outside of ESPN gifting him massive amounts of money for his teams. Please tell me, because there isn't anything. I love the green base in baseball. I think it does protect people. Statistics are already out, Chris. 93%, it's more safer of running down the first base. That's not my statistics. That is what is happening. I liked ABS because I do think SEC umpires do miss. I know you don't, and that's like we would fight over semantics about that. But regardless, name something that he's done that's literally helped the sport. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And so that's the reasons why I have issues with him. By the way, my favorite team is in that conference. And so it has bugged me. And it's so funny because as you and I are talking, Senator Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell are coming out with a legislation of a bill that Sankey's fighting, and it's still going through. You can't even do that to Ted Cruz, and he's a senator in Texas. Again, Chris, I know it's kind of a lot of things that we're throwing at it, but again, I just end this segment or my part of it in saying, what has he done that's helped the SEC?
He feels very reactionary versus proactive, where it's like the SEC should be at the forefront of a lot of these things. And it's all, I'm not saying he plays dumb, but he just says a lot to say nothing. I mean, I thought it was crazy when the SEC coaches, Brett McMurphy with On3 said this, SEC coach said they were misled about a 9-game league schedule, told the playoff would expand to 16 if they agreed to it. Quote, they felt misled, said John Summer. How do you – and then you got other coaches saying that, you know, you mentioned Mike Elko keeps it a buck, Alex Golish saying, like, why would anybody care what I think? Like, the messaging from the coaches is very, like, they don't give a shit what we think about any of this. That's a crazy disconnect to have with the coaches of your teams and then what you're, you know what I mean? Like that to me, it's not a good look. That's not a good look for the SEC.
No, of course, athletic directors want more money.
Right.
Of course they do. I mean, their bottom line's getting hit by the House settlement case. Of course they do. But here's a news flash. Everybody's mad at the TV revenue money, right, Chris? I mean, most people don't really like it. You and I are in the sport. We see the comments. Well, it's a $70 million TV contract to all 16 teams. 20 of it goes to the players. So what are you doing with the other 50? What are you $50 million? Who do you think you kidnapped? Chelsea Clinton? I mean, is this rush hour? I mean, like, what are we talking about? What are we legitimate? It takes you $50 million to support your athletes. That's what you're telling me? Chris, I'm sorry. I can find an accountant in Timbuktu that knows how to do things in accounting that can move money around. I mean, come on. So you're right. He is reactionary and he's not proactive. You go, this is the thing that probably pissed me off the most, but I didn't want to get political. What were you even saying to the president of the United States? None of it made sense. None of it. And so you're supposed to be the face of this. Tony Petitti didn't even show up. He didn't even show up because it goes against everything that he wants. So it just comes down to he's getting played. He got played. And if he allows for the SEC to expand to 24, this is what's going to happen. you will have more teams in the Big Ten that ultimately will get in and get that money. Fox, which is where he worked, by the way, if it goes past the 12 teams, Fox would then intervene and buy the rest of those games. Why do you think the Big Ten's doing it? Who is the biggest benefactor from the Big Ten if Fox got more money? Fox is pushing Petiti to push for this so that they get those additional games. This is a money grabber. This has nothing to do with the sport. And now you're to a situation where you have ESPN who is backing you. Why are you backing down? Everybody tries to convince me that the commissioner works for the presidents, athletic directors, and coaches. Okay, and your voice means nothing? Then let's get a turtle in there to run the conference then. Let's get a turtle to run it. I mean, sweater vest or not. So regardless, I mean, you have the weight to say, guys, this is not the best thing for us. It's not. And I'm a little surprised that Eli Drinkwitz has kind of walked some of these things back. You know, like he's for expansion. Chris, he's going to go 7-5 this year. It's happening. So, of course, you want expansion. But it comes down to the ramifications of what you're doing that makes zero sense. And look, I have a lot of problems with him. Everybody calls me an SEC homer. Name another national media guy that's been after Greg Sankey more than I have. It doesn't exist. So again, it just every little thing that he does, I'm like, please tell me how this makes sense.
It feels like he's in over his head, if we're being totally honest.
Yes.
It has for a few years now. I mean, I recall being at SEC Media Days like 2 years ago, and it just – you say a lot to say nothing at all, you know? And, again, we're
joking about that. We were texting back and forth, and, during the whole thing, what did he just say?
Yeah. You would expect Greg Sankey to be, again, at the forefront and be the leader on all of this and to have a really hard, steadfast opinion. I mean, I think even – and we can transition to this – I mean, something as simple as, are you going to reprimand Lane Kiffin or are you not? And you can't give a straight answer. Like, that's not a hard question to answer.
No.
You know? And
it's chicken shit.
I mean,
it's chicken shit.
Yeah.
I mean, stand on business then.
Yeah.
You want to, Chris, what is he doing? He's sitting behind a press release.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to.
Because he won't have to face that. If he went out there yesterday and said, we are reprimanding Lane Kiffin, or we're not, he's going to have to take questions on that. Maybe some questions he wasn't prepared for or isn't comfortable with, but he's going to have to answer them. But he will not obviously have to do that when the SEC releases whatever they release to follow up on this.
By the way, a media nightmare for him because you had the NAACP that came out that was suggesting for athletes, for African-American athletes to not play sports in the South, right? That is –
I thought Lane was asked about that yesterday, right?
He was asked about it. He said, I'm not touching it because, again, he literally is he's getting reprimanded for saying something that happened. So you get to a situation where the NAACP comes out there. You're going to reprimand a coach who, while at Ole Miss, there was civil unrest. The Confederate flag was flying in the middle of the campus. And you mean to tell me when all of that civil unrest happened on campus that the head coach of that school wasn't asked by athletes around the country, Coach, what's going on here? That's what you're trying to convince me of. Because what did he say? He said that, Coach, we really like you, but look, my mom, my grandparents, they're not going to let me come here. There's a lot of bad stuff that's going on here with civil unrest. I know that Pete Golding came out today and said, I told Lane that's not true. It is true. It is true. Because, Chris, it happened in 2022 too. So someone's going to have to convince me. Do you mean to tell me that athletes and athletes' parents didn't ask him about the civil unrest and kids getting kicked out of school for doing very horrible things? What's more plausible? So he goes up there. It's a PR nightmare. So he doesn't say anything at all. And not saying anything at all, he doesn't get any of the blowback. So you're going to fine Lane Kiffin for saying something that's the truth. Let me ask you this. What did the SEC do about the song Dixie? Who led that charge? Oh, wait, that's right. It was Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have a problem with it then, but now you have a problem with it now. I thought the funniest thing in all of this was actually Eli Drinkowitz yesterday. You know that coaches are unable to speak to one another. Mm-hmm. You can't speak to one another at this SEC spring meeting. Jeff Lebby and Pete Golding were in an elevator together, and Lane texted the entire coach, all the coaches, head coaches in the SEC, and said, hey, be careful, you'll get reprimanded. But that's not the cherry on top. What about Sarkisian? What about Sark?
Yeah, so you can't do one and not the other. Yeah,
you can't do one without the other. What about his comments to Texas Tech? And by your bylaws, it says that you cannot attack other institutions. It doesn't say SEC institutions. It says institutions. So I guess Texas Tech isn't an institution. So why are you popping Lane Kiffin when Sark's going out there saying the same stuff? Oh, by the way, Lane wasn't the only head coach from a former head coach from Ole Miss who said that was a problem. Ed Orgeron came out before he was hired, said, yes, there was massive problems with it. Oh, wait, Goff loved Hugh Freeze, says the same thing. So how is it a situation? Here's what I think. This is going to get me in trouble. People don't like talking about that specific topic. They get burned out by it. So when Lane brings it up about it being a problem, everybody's like, oh, it's not true, or they've come a long way. I mean, Chris, can we not have the conversation if that's not what he went through? Because I can send you DMs right now of parents in Mississippi that literally said, we did not go to Ole Miss because of the civil unrest. I'll send them to you so you can verify it. So, like, it comes down to you have parents of black athletes literally saying, yeah, that's true. What are we doing? So the NAACP is doing everything that they're doing, saying this about the South, and you're going to reprimand a coach for saying that this is a problem. How dumb are you? Do you understand the PR? Chris, how is that? We're in PR. We're in media. How do you play that out? NAACP comes out when Lane Kiffin gets reprimanded. Coach that fights for civil injustice gets fined. How does that play out? Are you dumb? Like, tell me that that's not coming.
Let me ask you, do you think they're going to reprimand him? You think they're going to go through with it? Yeah, really?
I do. I do. Because if Saban wouldn't have been reprimanded, then I'd probably be like, okay. But I just feel like that they are, yes. Because, and here's what kind of validated it for me. Why is Tom Mars, the attorney that's really close with Lane, fighting for Lane on Twitter before any action's been taken?
Right.
What it seems to me is that he called Tom Mars and be like, hey, man, can you go ahead and scare them and tell them to back off? Which, by the way, this was over with. This whole story was over with. You know why Lane went to the U? Everybody's mad at Ole Miss that Lane went back to talk about Ole Miss. They tried to fine him. You think that national media people weren't going to ask him about him being fined? You should have just ended it. But I do believe that he's going to get reprimanded. Yes, and Greg Sankey better pray to God that he does it to Sark too.
All hell will break.
But see,
don't do one and not the other. I agree. I agree with you.
But you know what? From an LSU side of things, this is building the momentum for Lane more than anything else could. The entire South, Chris, has its problems with the past and the history. We all know that. We can't do anything about that other than being acceptive and trying to fight all for equality. And everybody in our generation, let's just call it what it is, we have. So you come to a situation where now if you're an LSU fan, you see this and you go like, bro, we're going to defend Lane no matter what. That's why I think week 1 versus Clemson's going to explode. You're building momentum for the dude. And so you're making the fan base who already loved the man because he's your head coach and it's Lane Kiffin. You're building a situation. Chris, by the way, Jalen Brewster's the #1 overall recruit in the country. He just changed and he's coming to LSU this weekend. You don't think Lane's playing the long game? You don't think that his statements on something like that's like, you know what, man, Lane ain't that bad. It's a long game that's being played by him. But, man, I mean, we got to get to a situation where just because someone says the truth doesn't mean you got to fine them for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chris, how are we here? Are we in the Matrix? Like, are we really having to have these conversations?
Well, I mean, one positive that Greg Sankey did, I don't know if you saw this, Blake, announced today that SEC introduced mandatory sports gambling education for athletes. That the SEC announced today they're going to launch a new custom-designed mandatory sports gambling educational video that'll be viewed by all SEC student athletes prior to the start of their team's first regular season game during the upcoming 26-27 athletic year. So at least they got that. At least they did that.
Yeah, because that's really going to teach them.
It's really going to stop dudes from that parlay in. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, indeed. I get it that you're trying to be proactive in reference to the Brendan Sorsby situation. We don't even need to go there. But I even find that hypocritical. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm old enough to remember when you had a sponsorship with FanDuel, literally during the SEC tournament. I mean, so wait, you can take their money, but and I get that. I don't think you should ever be allowed to bet on the sport or on the game that you're playing. Let me be very clear. I don't agree with athletes being able to gamble in general. I think you need to have a fine line. No, you can't do it. But then I look at Brendan Sorsby's situation, by the way, and I'm like, NCAA, you ran March Madness, and your main two sponsors were DraftKings and FanDuel. You took their money. Mm-hmm. You're promoting it. Chris, they're promoting it. And so you're like, oh, well, he can't do this. Okay, I'm with you. I don't think anybody should be. I'm with you on that. But two things can be true. You can't then also take their money. Mm-hmm. It's not how this should work. Chris, I am to a place like I know that like Pate makes this joke, but we need commissioners in all sports. Like if we've ever needed a governing body, we got to get it. And until that happens, we're going to continue down this dumb path of stupidity that we just continue to cycle ourselves through every single year. Every single year. What's the NFL rule? Can't bet on football. Basketball, by all means. By all means. And they've took stern penalties for guys that bet on football. Calvin Ridley didn't bet on his own game. Mm-hmm. He bet on the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers at Thanksgiving. So what really happened? I'm sure he was around his cousins. You know how we act when we're around our cousins. Bet I won't drop 10 grand. You know how it is. Mm-hmm. But he got popped. And so, like, it's just a whole, like, Sankey, this is what I love about Sankey. This is sarcasm. He comes out here and we're doing this. We're going to show them an instruction video as if it like that matters. Chris, that doesn't matter. And that's like the girl at the bar who's going to tell you she's going to text you when she gets home. And you're like, oh, man, she's going to text me. Girl ain't going to text you when you get home.
Like I'm curious. I don't know if this is really Sankey related, although he's directly got a hand in this, but I am curious to get your thoughts as someone that enjoys and watches and I would assume loves the game. Thoughts on the SEC championship game going away. I know that's another big topic at SEC spring meetings. I mean, really, this isn't just an SEC thing. This is conference championship games as a whole going away.
Hate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do too. I hate it too. I made this point. I want to hear your thoughts. I don't know if this sounds crazy, but I love it because, and I equated it to baseball where it's like, there's almost winning a national title is the ultimate goal. Please don't get that twisted. But there is a serious sense of pride in like baseball winning the SEC regular season title because it's damn near harder than winning the national championship. It's that hard of a trophy to earn.
Yeah.
So in football, like winning the SEC title in Atlanta, being atop the best conference, the best team in that conference, I mean, there's a lot of pride in that. Like, there's a lot of pride in winning an SEC title. So again, I'm not saying that winning the SEC championship is a more lofty accomplishment than winning the national title. I think you get what I'm saying, though. I hate taking away that opportunity to proclaim yourself the best of the best. You know what I mean? That sucks. I think that sucks.
I got an even better one. Who's the champion of the conference? Who won the conference?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say
dogs.
well, because this is going to happen. Let's say Georgia and Bama don't play. Because there's going to be a year where they don't play.
Right.
Let's say both of them in the league are 8-1. Who won?
You're not going to have a winner. I mean, there's not. I don't even think it's going to. I don't even think it's going to. But you know what sucks too about that? Now that you're saying it out loud, we complain that college football has become this college football playoff or bust mentality, and now you're just taking something else away that you had to play for. So now it just reinforces that if you didn't make the playoff, you accomplished literally nothing. We took away divisions, so you can't win the East or West. Now you want to take away the SEC title game. You can't win the SEC. And then, like you said, everybody can't play everybody. So you really can't even have an SEC regular season champion, barring you go 9-0 and everybody else, that you're the only one. But I mean, probably rarely is that ever going to happen. So
very rarely.
It really is just, did you make the playoff? Or did you not? And then, be careful what you wish for, all ADs and all these other coaches, because we're going to get to a place where it's 24 teams. And I'm sorry, I just don't think going 7-5 and being the 24th team in the playoff is going to satisfy you the way that you think it is.
No,
there's going to be nothing about that's satisfying.
You know what it does? It devalues the regular season and at the same time devalues the playoff. You're literally devaluing both, because this dude could get his, like Iowa lost 4 games. Iowa would have been in the playoff this year. So what is their regular season means nothing. It literally means nothing. So if they go into a playoff and they get skull drug again, now what? Now here's the thing that I heard you talk about yesterday. People will be like, well, bowl season's kind of over with. Like, nobody really does it.
And I was playing devil's advocate there, but yes.
Correct. But you know what I'd rather? An intensely competitive regular season to then give up bowl games. If I had to choose, I would rather a very competitive regular season, which makes college football elite, and then let's find out who that champion is after that. Fine. Bowl games will be bowl games. Chris, here's let's just act like for just a moment that they would have stayed at 4 teams. Let's hypothetically think that they would have stayed at just 2 teams. Bowl games in today's tradition would still be bad. You know how? Because if I'm Mansour Delane at LSU and I'm going to be the first corner taken off the board, guess who's not playing? The portal will still be where it's at. Guess who's not playing? Yeah. It doesn't matter by expanding it. It makes it more. What we're going to hate is, Chris, I'm sorry to tell everybody, Notre Dame's going to skull drug Houston. They're going to wipe the floor with them. When Miami started to get rolling, they will wipe the floor with Chris, they're spanking everybody. I mean, they're a touchdown away from beating Indiana. They're on the final drive to beat Indiana. And, of course, Carson Beck throws interception because it's Carson Beck. But what happens if they play James Madison?
Ugly.
It's ugly. It is ugly. So, again, I just say, like, bowl season is bowl season is bowl season. It is what it is. But now you're starting to devalue the regular season and you're devaluing the playoff. I just don't understand, like, why you don't want to crown a champion. Here's another thing too that bugs me really bad. I am so sick and tired of hearing, well, the NFL does. You're not the NFL.
Mm-hmm. That was the great thing about college football is that it's not the NFL.
It's not the NFL. You don't really play the same sport. Mm-hmm. So Lamar Brown, who went to LSU, was the #1 overall recruit in the country. All right, well, he's got to now go to Kent State if we want to make it like the NFL. Fernando Mendoza went to Vegas, so let's do it like the NFL. And by the way, the one thing the NFL got the most right was their schedule, and you still haven't fixed that. The one thing that you should have been able to fix, Chris, they didn't fix it. They need no regulations. They need no Senate bill. They need nothing to change the schedule. They don't need majority vote. They don't even need a vote. And then they haven't changed the schedule. They haven't changed about coaches. Now, I know the Senate bill, but Ted Cruz, the Lane Kiffin rule, you got to stay with your coach, which Ole Miss people, boy, would they have been mad if Lane Kiffin would have taken the LSU job and then he still would have had to coach. Regardless of that, why don't you take their model? You can't talk to a coach until after the season. We're pushing the portal back to spring. We're going to do OTAs and mini camps in June and July. Oh, my God, it's a Christmas freaking miracle. It's like the NFL figured it out. So even then, they are prioritizing things that they shouldn't be prioritizing, which need to be prioritized in the schedule, and they haven't even done that either. By the way, about SEC championship games or championship games as a whole, why do you have to get rid of them? You have 10 days in between. Sometimes you have 14 days in between playoff games. What do you mean to tell me that you can't have it? Well, TV, we don't want to compete with the NFL. Well, one of you have it on a Saturday, the other of you have it on a Friday. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? So that's a part of like, we can't find time in the schedule. Really? You can't? So you're going to go 14 days in between games because that makes a lot of sense.
Blake, in closing here, because you and I we could go all day on this, especially it's something we care so passionately about, but I do want to get your thoughts on it. I think it's important, obviously, for folks like yourself and for us and for everybody out there who's got an influential voice to voice their concerns and their opinions, because I'm not naive enough, and nor should anybody else be, to think that those cries aren't heard and don't influence at least some of the conversation. At least hopefully they do for the better. That being said, your concern level with the future of the sport, because it does feel like to me, as much as we blow hot air, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, I don't think we're going backwards. I don't think we'll go backwards. And when I say backwards, I mean a shrunken playoff, or God forbid, we go back to a 2-team to let the computers decide it. Hell, we have AI now, right? Like, I mean, that, let them do it. I don't think we're going back to that until it breaks, essentially. I think there's a great concern about what college football and even college athletics, but what college football specifically looks like in, let's just say, 5 years. Like, I don't. There's some that I think just want to be different, or maybe they've got a warped brain or what. But there aren't many out there that under this false illusion that 24 or 36 or God forbid doing a field of 64, like that's good for college football. But like, how do we go backward? Do we go back? Is it possible at any point to go backwards?
You can't, because money. You can't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, to your point, I don't see them ever being like, let's sacrifice revenue for the better of the sport. And that's them doing that, not me doing that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, hold on. Here's the reason why you can't. So let's hypothetically, for just a moment, say you go to 24. That means more money will come into the sport. Well, under the House settlement, here we go. Under the House settlement, once you increase the revenue, guess what you can't do? You can't go backwards. Mm-hmm. So there is no going back. Chris, there's no going.
Where does it stop in your mind? If you had a crystal ball, where does it stop?
I do think it would stop at 24. if they're like I've said for 3 years now that they would probably go to 24 like the FCS. If I had to guess that they would push that. Where are we today? First off, our first $10,000 view video on Ruffino and Joe is me saying, guys, this is going to go to 24 because they're going to take the FCS model because of how ESPN has structured that deal. Chris, here's the real truth that nobody wants to get into the murky waters on. ESPN has tested all of this with the FCS. And they don't like it. They think it's horrible. You know why? Because the number 1 and number 2 seeds always win. Who would have ever thunk it? But yet they got to pay more money for less views. Mm-hmm. I do think it would stop there. If there is an addition, I think they would call it play-in games. Like, for example, if you got multiple 8-4 teams in the Big Ten and SEC, you play one another and whoever wins gets in type of deal, slotted AQs. But even then you're getting to a place where it's like, okay, so it's a 36-team playoff. You know, I had a formerly of CBS, like Pate brought that up, okay? And I'm like, I completely disagree with you. You want to do playing games? Brother, call it a 36-team playoff.
Yeah, it's a playoff at that point. I think it was Drinkwitz that made that point too, where he's like,
right.
No, we're not. But it's play-in game. Like, that is a playoff. That's literally what a playoff is.
It is. Yeah. I mean, you expanded the March Madness to 72 teams, right? It's 72. Well, all of those games they're playing.
Mm-hmm. But it's still, you're right, yeah.
So, I mean, you're just getting to a place in time where their argument, what are the 3 main arguments? NFL model, we've already debunked that. That's stupid and idiotic. More access, okay, so devaluing the regular season, and more money. Just come out here and tell me that you want more money. Chris, who doesn't want more money? But here's the thing. You and I have no moral high ground to stand on for not wanting it. It's the opposite. The opposite would be, could you have a massive Texas following? What would have happened if Texas would have gotten the playoff and you were able to do videos on it? Yeah. Guess what happens to you? Congratulations, my guy. It's a brand new car. You get more money paid. So for Ruffino and Joe as an example, there's nobody that loves the playoff season and more playoff games more than me. Believe you me, because when that paycheck starts flying in, I love it. And I'm sitting here telling you it doesn't make any sense for the betterment of the sport, but it also does it for everybody else. So it's about, you know what? Never mind. I shouldn't have any morality. Expand it to 36 teams and let's call it a day. It's dumb. It is dumb.
Yeah, I guess what concerns me is it's the people in charge really don't give a darn. It's all revenue driven. It's going to expand to a point where it ruins the sport. It's weird to think of a place that we could get to, a place where college football falls out of favor with a lot of folks, because I feel like for the most part, Saturdays will always be Saturdays. But then again, something being on the line is what creates the intensity and the energy around game day. I mean, to a degree, like, I think there's games that there will always be pride associated. Like LSU wants to beat Alabama. I don't care. Both the teams could be defeated going in, and that game is going to have intensity. But it's just, I mean,
Chris, think about it.
I hope we don't get to a place where we look up and it's like an unrecognizable product that we hate.
Oh, it's going to be. So. No, hold on. It's going to be.
Yeah.
Because people, you brought up the point, well, or maybe it was Cole, I don't remember. Well, people rest starters during rivalry games. I agree with you. I have a very, very, very hard time believing that A&M's going to rest starters, because they're going to be, woo, no, don't do it. They're going to be freaking out if you don't do that versus Texas. However, there are 120 teams around the country that don't play a rival on rivalry weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's just say LSU's 10-1. Why in the hell would I risk my starters for a team that I can beat or play a half against and get them out of there? Why would I do that? So, yes.
Arkansas catching strays out here.
I mean, but
the battle for the golden boots back to the last weekend, Blake.
they're so bad. They're going to be so bad. I mean, they might be the last team in the SEC, but you get my point.
No, yeah.
You get my point. What, like, Chris, we've gotten to a place already where we don't even want to talk about it. Last thing I'm going to say before we get out of here. Clemson and South Carolina 2 years ago did not matter. It did not. The game played out on the field, and
South Carolina beat them, and Clemson still went to the playoffs.
And they still went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Last year, Texas beats Oklahoma because of some distorted, dumb, idiotic thought process. They got 3 losses. They don't deserve to be in the playoff. Well, okay. So they're the only team in college football last year to have 2 wins against playoff teams was Texas. Only 2. But because they play Ohio State, why would I do that? And everybody tries to tell me this too. Well, with an expanded playoff, you'll get bigger games in the regular season. Oh, really? Because coaches and ADs don't care about seeding and bye weeks. They're going to care about seeding. Why wouldn't they? So why in the world, and that's another thing Greg Sankey did, he's making them play 10 FBS opponents. Idiot. Like, what are you doing? They're not going to give 2 shits about what is going on in reference to what anything that hurts them. They're not going to care. They're going to want to do what's best for them. We have a distorted mindset. Hey, you know how I know Texas was better than Oklahoma last year? They played. So you're already having devalue because people are idiotic. I think Hunter Yurachek needs to be banned from all athletics.
6'7".
I mean, all of athletics.
Oh God,
he
really lost me in the selection, the playoff show.
I mean, seriously, he justified that Oklahoma was better than Texas, and they played on the field.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing anymore. I have no idea.
It's going to be interesting to see, to say the very least, Blake.
Yep.
SEC spring meetings will continue. I think the final day will be, we're talking on Wednesday, so tomorrow I think it'll wrap up. Curious to see what comes out of it. I certainly don't think any resolutions or any real answers, but it'll be entertaining, to say the very least. So, Blake Ruffino, AYS Sports, Ruffino and Joe Show, one of the best in the business. Congratulations again, Blake. CBS 24/7 Sports. Well deserved, my friend. Well deserved.
Thank you, my man. Thank you for having me as always.
Absolutely. We appreciate you doing it. Let's do it again soon, my man.
Rally pillows because Hunter Yurachek is freaking me out.
God, right, we'll cut it there. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thanks, bro.
Here, let me hit this end recording.